Well, joining us now is Auckland Councillor and mayoral candidate Efeso Collins. Efeso, what we're seeing out there is actually deeply shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, it is deeply shocking. I find it deeply troubling as well. My eldest daughter is 9 years old, and so when you get this kind of information, we'll be deeply troubled. I'm also troubled for the local retailers who would feel anguish and despair over what's happened. But in order for us to move from this anti-social behaviour to pro-social behaviour, we've got to get more youth workers on the ground. We've got to see more police, more youth workers. I'd suggest to you that youth workers are just as valuable as police in this situation, because this requires a community-wide response, because this is going to restore our young people so they feel like they're part of the community.
I want to get to the detail of that with you in just a second, but I also want to ask you, what do you think is going on with these kids that we are seeing out committing these robberies and ram raids, some as young as 7, but 11, 12, 13? You know, what do you think is going on in those families?
Yeah, I think it's a deep connection issue that we've got. What we know from both the literature and my experience of working with young people for over 20 years is that when they have strong relationships with an adult, when they've got strong whānau relationships, when they're in sports teams and they've got youth mentors, drop-in centres that they can go to, they're much more connected in the community. What we have at the moment is lots of disconnected young people, and what they're doing is acting in a way where they feel unloved and unwanted. This is something the Police Association have said, and as a result they're treating people in a very unloved way.
And they're so young to be going down that track, aren't they? The police are sort of holding up their hands this week saying we are doing what we can, we're investigating, we resource, but this is not a problem that we can deal with on our own. What specifically are they asking for from communities?
Yeah, I think what they're asking for is a community response, and that's going to mean youth workers. We know that in South Auckland, where I am, about 5 years ago, the Ministry of Social Development dropped about $4 million of funding, so there were no youth workers on the ground. We've got a small number of youth workers now at Otara Health, which is really good, but a community-wide response is going to be the answer. We've got to deal to social inequality and poverty, because that's what drives this behaviour.
And what is it exactly that those youth workers are doing?
They get beside them, they understand what any links are, possibly to youth gangs, but they're helping to lift their eyes, give them a sense of what do you want to do in the future, how are you going to be connected, how are you going to give back to your community. That's the pro-social behaviour we're wanting, but we've got to move them out of the anti-social behaviour, so the youth workers are the mentors that are going to be able to do that for them.
Efeso, where are the parents?
Yeah, I think we're looking at a range of parents that are challenged here. We've got a number of parents who might be working a number of jobs. We've got parents who probably were raised with this as being their norm as well. And so when it's been their norm, if you're getting a list to go into a shop and say, go get this baby food or these toys, it's obvious that there must be a parent or an adult involved in this. They're very organised. Imagine if we took that level of organisation and planning and made it pro-social behaviour. But we've got to lift their eyes.
And Efeso, you touched on this briefly, I just want to finish. Do you think that there is a vacuum that's being filled by gangs out there at the moment?
I think there is youth gang connection here, but I think the void is made possible because there's not enough youth workers and meaningful connections to older, significant people. That means that these young people are left vulnerable to the exploitations of some of the youth gangs.
It's something that we need to fix, isn't it? Thank you so much for coming in tonight, Efeso Collins.